Hey everyone, just a quick announcement before we start. We recently passed 500 subscribers, which is amazing, and as soon as the community tab is enabled, I will put up a poll to determine the subscriber special. However, even now less than 20% of viewers are subscribed, so I implore you, if you enjoy this story, please subscribe so that we can get closer to our next goal of 1,000 subs. Thank you, and let's get into the story. Goku is dead. His body, along with that of Gohan's, have been transported to the other world, so they may maintain their physical capacities as they embark on this next great journey. Their lives were lost to save the world from the tyrant Frieza, though none of those they left behind are in any mood to celebrate their victory. It is a somber time as the remaining Z fighters contemplate where to go from here. For Chi-Chi, her course is clear. She will return to the lookout, and Raditz intends to join her, this being his final tribute to the brother who saved his life and the nephew who saved his soul. As for the remaining humans, they intend to return to their lives, while never dropping their training so that should the Earth ever need them again, they will be ready. The only one who has no plans to stick around is Vegeta. Even with no sign of Frieza, he is not convinced that his tormentor is dead, and so with no rival to tether him to this world, or Super Saiyan state to try and emulate, Vegeta declares his intentions to return to the stars and dismantle the remnants of the Frieza Force, including the holdings of King Cold. He then orders Nappa to follow him onto Frieza's mothership so they can get it flying, but calmly Nappa refuses. This is the first time he has ever done such a thing, and unsurprisingly the prince is taken aback, demanding to know why Nappa would dare refuse a direct order from his liege. But in that same calm voice, Nappa says that he's not his liege. The Saiyan race is gone, and so is Frieza, so it's time they move on, and make lives of themselves like Raditz and Kakarot did. From what he's seen, this world could be a good home, but Vegeta calls the idea preposterous, and denounces Nappa as a soft old man who's lost his Saiyan pride. Nappa sighs that he knew Vegeta would take it this way, but he had to try to convince him for old time's sake. He then wishes the smaller man luck out in space, saying that he hopes he finds whatever it is he's really looking for. Vegeta fumes that he should kill him for such insubordination, but Raditz steps between them, fire in his eyes as if daring Vegeta to throw the first punch so he can vent his anguish on the prince. He then declares that there will be no more killing today, so if Vegeta wants to pick a fight, he will have to wait for another time. Vegeta sneers that he wouldn't waste another minute on this worthless rock if his life depended on it, and so stalks over to Frieza's ship alone. Krillin asks Nappa where he intends to go now, and the burly brute says he's going to return to Roshi's island to give the old hermit's training a second try. His failure against Berta has humbled him, and after so long as an aimless thug, he wants to see if he can find whatever it was that made Kakarot so willing to sacrifice his life without a moment's hesitation. In short, he wants a sense of purpose and a place to call his own. Krillin sagely nods that he thinks that's all anyone wants, and so offers to guide him back to the island. The pair depart with Tien doing likewise soon after, saying he will inform Chiaotzu of their friend's passing. Finally, even Vegeta leaves, having managed to get Frieza's ship airborne, and so exits the atmosphere, leaving Raditz and Chi-Chi alone in the land of Korin. Meanwhile, in Otherworld, Goku and Gohan are nearing the front of the line at King Yemma's check-in station. Though Gohan cannot tire in the afterlife, Goku still carries him like he used to when Gohan was younger, wanting to hold his son close and feel him here beside him. Though deep in his heart, Goku knows that Gohan shouldn't be here. He still had far too much life left to live, and he would have been able to live it, to grow old, to love and one day start a family of his own perhaps. If only his father had not been such a fool. He should have listened to Raditz and killed Frieza when he had the chance, but he had been arrogant and didn't think that, no, he didn't think, period. And now Gohan must pay the price for Goku's hubris. Reaching the front of the line at last, Goku greets King Yemma without any of his usual exuberance. Yemma, having met Goku through work, wonders what is wrong with him, before noticing the halo above his head and realizing that Goku is dead, rather than simply guiding the soul of a departed person to the afterlife. He then pulls up Goku's file and sees that he sacrificed his life to defeat Frieza, a commendable feat indeed. Yoga congratulates Goku for his act of heroism, and says that for such a deed he is entitled to go anywhere in the other world he wants. Goku replies that all he wants is for his son to be returned to life, a firmness in his tone that is most unlike the Jolly Guardian. Tugging at his beard awkwardly, Yemma blusters that there really isn't anywhere that can grant that wish, since as far as he knows the only celestial beings that can revive the dead are angels and Supreme Kais, and with the universe's only angel not residing in Otherworld, and the Supreme Kai being so reclusive, he's afraid that Goku is out of luck. Still serious, Goku asks if it would be possible to find the Supreme Kai somewhere in Otherworld, and Yema says that theoretically it would be, but like he said, he hasn't been seen in centuries, so Goku could spend lifetimes searching and still come up empty-handed. Goku doesn't care, and so declares that what he wants is a way to go look for the Supreme Kai with Gohan. Yema sighs that he did technically say Goku could choose his afterlife, and so tells the Guardian that he can board a plane from here which will take him to the Grand Kai's planet. As the next highest Kai under the Supreme Kai, he might know where to start looking, though Yema does reiterate that this quest is likely a fool's errand. This doesn't seem to matter to Goku, whose smile has returned at last, as he thanks the king for everything, and begins running towards the runway with Gohan still clutched in his arms. The trip is a bumpy one, as the plane they travel on is old and rickety, but the father-son duo have fun looking out the window at all the strange worlds that make up this dimension. Though Goku's guilt has not lessened, having a goal again has allowed him to compartmentalize it and put on a brave face for Gohan. When they arrive on the Grand Kai's world, they are greeted with interest by the inhabitants of the world, especially Alibu, who says that King Yema phoned ahead to say that they were coming, and mentioned that they are from Earth. Gohan smiles and nods that they are, adding that his dad is the Guardian of Earth, which makes Alibu grin that he once held a similar title. He looks forward to getting to know them both during their time here. Goku says he'd love to stick around and maybe even fight Alibu, since he seems super strong, but unfortunately he's only here to get the location of the Supreme Kai's planet from the Grand Kai, so they can see about getting his son revived. Alibu shakes his head that though he admires Goku's noble intentions, no one sees the Grand Kai without putting in 10,000 years of training first. Goku panics that that's like 10,000 more years than he has to spare, asking if there's any way he can get an audience with the Grand Kai sooner. Alibu smiles that though it's not strictly within the rules of this planet, if Goku's able to beat him in a fight, he'd be willing to give him his years. Then he'd only have to train for a few more 1,000 years rather than the full 10, since he recognizes that Goku's here for a selfless reason. Goku easily agrees, and so the pair take up fighting stances across from each other. Goku is the first to move, going into Kaioken x3 right off the bat and leaping at Alibu with a punch. The muscular human, however, is easily able to sidestep this blow and drive an elbow into the back of Goku's head. Goku is knocked onto his hands and knees by the blow, but is able to move fast enough that he avoids the follow-up attack by rolling out of the way and firing a Kamehameha. This does knock Alibu back, and so our hero presses his advantage, attempting a leg sweep this time, but once more Alibu avoids it, showing the vast power gap between them, even while the Guardian is in Kaioken. He then drops down onto Goku's extended leg, making the Saiyan cry out in pain, before a gut punch from the toga-wearing warrior knocks the wind right out of him. Alibu then grabs Goku by the shirt front and lifts him into the air with one arm, saying that while he still admires Goku's goals, he thinks 10,000 years of training will do him some good, since as it stands he is far too weak to be demanding an audience with the Grand Kai, let alone the Supreme Kai. The thought of being denied here at the first hurdle, of failing his son before their journey has even begun, fills Goku with rage. And like in the battle with Frieza, his hair begins to flicker gold and spike up. But unlike then, his body no longer has the same limitations it did while he was alive. And so for a brief moment, Goku enters this new state, feeling his power swell exponentially as he drives a fist into his opponent's face. This time Alibu is not quick enough to dodge, and so is forced to drop Goku as his hands fly instinctively to his wounded face, granting Goku the opportunity he needs to knee him in the stomach. This single blow is enough to knock the legendary fighter out cold, and as Alibu falls to the floor, Goku's strange transformation ends just as suddenly as it began, leaving Goku with an incredible head rush and a weird tingling in his lower back. Gohan then runs in to hug his dad, saying that he did it, and as Goku lifts him up, an unfamiliar voice concurs that indeed he did. Spinning around, Goku sees that the speaker is a wizened old hippie dressed head to toe in denim with an insane amount of hair and beard. The Saiyan asks if he's another fighter, but the old man replies that no, he is in fact the Grand Kai, and when he heard Goku's story, well, it dang near broke his heart. Goku asks that the Grand Kai can take him to the Supreme Kai's world, imploring that he too must see why it's so important to get Gohan revived when he was cut down so unfairly in his prime. The Grand Kai nods and walks over to ruffle Gohan's hair, saying that if it was up to him, he'd give the kid his life back in a heartbeat. But sadly it's not, and nor can he take the pair to the sacred world of the Kais. Goku asks why not, and the Grand Kai admits that the sacred world of the Kais is a weird place geographically. It exists beyond the mortal realm, but is also not really a part of Otherworld. This confuses Goku, so in a kindly tone the Grand Kai elaborates, explaining that it's kinda like a satellite dimension that orbits both the living world and Otherworld, so the Supreme Kai can monitor it all. Gohan perks up, saying in that sense it's kinda like the lookout back on Earth, and the Grand Kai nods approvingly, calling Gohan one sharp kid. The boy then asks if there's a special condition one must fulfill to reach the sacred world, like how his dad had to use the power pole the first time he went to the lookout, and the Grand Kai says that there sorta is. In order to gain access to the world, you have to be brought there by one of its residents, but to be brought there you have to first make contact with them, and the only way to make contact with them is to visit them on their world. Goku frowns that it sounds like the old deity is saying it's impossible, but the Grand Kai tuts that it's not impossible, just difficult, since as King Yama no doubt told him, the Supreme Kai is a famous recluse. However, as the Grand Kai, he has a relationship with the Supreme Kai, not unlike Goku had with Yama as guardian. So, with a bit of time, and a lot of luck, he should be able to get in contact with him. Goku beams that that's amazing, thanking the Grand Kai for his help, but the bearded Kai chuckles not to thank him yet, since even if he makes contact, there's no guarantee the Supreme Kai will allow Goku to visit his world and plead his case, since he ain't exactly the type for house guests. Speaking of which, while the Grand Kai tries to make contact, Goku and Gohan are welcome to use his world to train, since they're probably going to be here for a while. Meanwhile, back on Earth, our heroes are forced to settle into a world without Goku. For those wondering why they don't simply go to Namek, my reasoning is that since the Saiyans never met Piccolo and Kami, the news of their Namekian origins never came to light, and as such there is nothing to suggest that there is another planet which might have Dragon Balls capable of reviving their fallen friends. And so as time marches on, Chi-Chi continues to watch over the world from on high, but no matter how many times Popo offers her the official position of Guardian, she always refuses, leaving the world without a guardian for the time being. Raditz also remains on the lookout by his sister-in-law's side, but while this isolation is amenable to Chi-Chi, it is less so to the Saiyan, who has lived his entire life communally, both on planet Vegeta and later with the Frieza Force. And finally, after seeing how miserable this makes him, Chi-Chi takes pity on the long-haired man, and tells him to go down to the surface, familiarize himself with the culture and the people, since part of the reason Goku was such a great guardian was that he truly loved Earth, and that allowed him to protect it with his whole heart. Raditz gratefully accepts, and so heads down to Earth. At first, he mostly just wanders, exploring everywhere he can find, from bustling cities to lifeless deserts, mountain peaks to ocean depths. At times, he is joined by one or more of the Z-Fighters, who are happy to help their new friend adapt to life on Earth. However, the human who he gets closest to is one he meets in between journeys, during a stopover in West City. At Krillin's insistence, the pair visit Capsule Corp, where Raditz is introduced to Bulma as the woman who invented the gravity chamber. Raditz has always admired ingenuity and a strong will, so he and Bulma quickly hit it off, with Bulma in turn finding him a much more intelligent conversationalist than his brother, while still bearing enough physical resemblance that all the factors she found attractive about Goku at the 23rd tournament are still present in Raditz as well. And so bit by bit, Raditz begins returning to the lookout less and less frequently, choosing to instead spend his time at Capsule Corp with Bulma. Raditz does still continue to travel like Chi-Chi suggested, but now he does it with Bulma, and the pair have immense fun together exploring all the places they've never been, as well as a few places Bulma visited in her youth while traveling with Goku and the gang. This shared morning of Goku also brings them close together, as Bulma is able to tell Raditz about the boy Goku was, while Raditz in turn fills her in on the man he became after they parted ways at the tournament. Everyone in the Dragon team is happy for them, and it comes as a shock to no one when roughly a year after meeting, the couple announce their engagement, and then a few months later that they are expecting their first child. Even in Otherworld, people are raising their glasses to the happy couple, as Goku and Gohan watch them from the Grand Kai's world. For the last year, they have been training here with various legendary heroes from across the galaxy, and have seen extraordinary gains as a result. By now they can even match Alibu, though Goku has still not figured out how to tap into that spiky head power-up he got during their first fight. However, training is not the only way the father-son duo have been filling their time. Thanks to not needing to sleep, they're able to utilize every second of each day to the fullest, often spending whole nights together talking or playing. It is at these times that Goku cannot help but selfishly think how much he will miss Gohan when he returns to life. But every time he sees that smiling face looking up at him, it reaffirms that his course is right, and he must follow it through, no matter the cost to himself. Finally, a day comes when the Grand Kai seeks Goku and Gohan out, and tells them that he has made contact with the Supreme Kai, and he is sending an emissary to bring them to his world. The pair are ecstatic and thank the Grand Kai profusely, but just as when he first agreed to help them, he tells Goku and Gohan that he cannot promise them success, since all the Supreme Kai has agreed to is an audience, nothing more. Goku says that will be more than enough, since he knows that if they talk face to face, even the Supreme Kai will see why Gohan deserves to be brought back. And though he doesn't say it, he mentally finishes the thought with, "and why he doesn't deserve to pay for my mistake." The next day, a tall figure with pink wrinkled skin and long white hair arrives at the Grand Kai's world. When Goku sees him, he immediately assumes that he is the Supreme Kai by his stern demeanor, and so asks if this is the case. The man replies that he is not. He is the Supreme Kai's bodyguard and attendant Kibito. This makes Goku relax a little, and he sticks a hand out to shake, saying that in that case it's good to meet him. Kibito frowns at the hand until Goku drops it, saying that he personally does not approve of mortals being allowed onto the sacred world of the Kais, even if Goku was once a minor deity himself. However, he is Lord Shin's loyal vassal, so if it is his will that Goku be granted access to the sacred world, then it shall be done. Goku smiles that Kibito shouldn't be so down on mortals since they're not all bad, but the Pink Kai replies that it's not a matter of bad, it is a matter of demarcation between the divine and the mundane. He then extends an arm, instructing the Saiyans to hold on and not let go until they arrive, otherwise they could be lost somewhere in the void between this dimension and the sacred world of the Kais. Goku and Gohan take this warning very seriously, and so hold on tight as the three of them vanish into thin air. In almost no time at all, the trio touch down on a grassy plain underneath a lilac sky, and Kibito tells them this is the sacred world of the Kais, so they should be sure to treat it with the proper reverence. The soft voice then chuckles that Kibito shouldn't be so harsh with their guests, as a small purple-skinned man with a shockingly white mohawk steps into view. With a sweeping bow, Kibito drops to one knee, pulling Goku and Gohan down with him, ordering them to bow before the Supreme Kai of the entire universe. But Shin just chuckles that this is exactly what he's talking about, humbly asking for the Saiyan's forgiveness for his attendant's overzealousness. Goku grins that Shin shouldn't sweat it, introducing himself and his son with a handshake, which this Kai graciously accepts. Goku then turns serious, saying he's come with an important purpose. He wants to request that the Supreme Kai grant Gohan a second chance at life, since he only died due to Goku making a foolish mistake. The Saiyan warrior then presses his palms and face to the ground in a sign of deference, vowing that he will pay whatever price the Supreme Kai deems necessary. Shin eyes Goku, asking what if he required Goku's soul to be destroyed, trading a life for a life. Would he face total oblivion for his son? Without hesitation, Goku replies that he would. Gohan cries that he wouldn't accept the deal if it meant losing his dad forever, but Shin grins that Gohan need not worry. It was just a little test, and Goku passed with flying colors, proving that he's exactly as pure-hearted as his reputation would suggest. Goku beams that this means Shin will help him, right? But the god sadly shakes his head, saying that though he would very much like to, the only way a Kai can restore the life of a mortal is by giving up their own life, and as it stands, he is bound in a life link with another, so he cannot make such a selfish decision with at least conferring with his counterpart. Goku's smile doesn't drop and he says that's fine, since surely Shin can just have Kibito bring the other guy here, they can talk it out, and Gohan can still get revived. Kibito growls how dare Goku give orders to the Supreme Kai, but Shin calms him with a hand, before shaking his head once more, and saying that this won't be possible, since his counterpart has been asleep for 25 years, and will likely stay that way for decades, if not centuries. Goku whines that if he's already slept that long, can't they just wake him up for a teensy-wincy little chat? But Shin animatedly gasps that such an idea is out of the question, since if someone were to wake Lord Beerus from his slumber prematurely, he'd be more likely to erase them than revive them. Goku gulps that he doesn't want that, and asks if there's really no chance of talking to him sooner. Shin sighs that there isn't, apologizing for not being able to help. This deflates the Guardian, and so taking Gohan's hand, he tells his son they should probably head back to Grand Kai's world. However, here Shin stops them, saying that while they wait for Beerus to awaken, he would actually like for them to remain here. Goku, Gohan, and Kibito all look surprised at this declaration, so Shin elaborates, saying that he specifically wants a chance to study Gohan a bit more closely, since by being born to a parent with godly ki, Gohan possesses an innate god ki quite similar to that of a Kai. Gohan seems even more taken aback by this, looking at his hands as though he's never seen them before, and protests that he's just a kid. There's no way he has the same sort of energy as the ruler of the universe. Shin kindly but firmly disagrees, telling Gohan to try and read his energy, and so the young hybrid along with his father do as they're told. Like Shin said, there is a definite similarity between Gohan and Shin's ki, and when this registers on the Saiyans' faces, Shin grins that now they see what he means. He then adds that if they agree to his request, they will not go unrewarded, since Kibito is stronger than almost any mortal and can train them both to become fighters worthy of legend, while he will aid them as well by showing them both how to draw out their divine gifts to the fullest. Goku and Gohan consider for a moment, then in unison nod their agreement. Back on Earth, another 6 months pass. Peace and prosperity reign, and over at Capsule Corp, preparations are being made as Bulma enters her 3rd trimester. Though Raditz still trains daily in a gravity room Bulma built especially for him, he is also an attentive partner, eagerly awaiting fatherhood after the bond he built with Gohan. It is therefore an extra deep dread that fills him when in the distance a horribly familiar power level spikes, drawing the attention of him and every other defender of Earth. Having made it their de facto base of operations, the Z-Warriors and Bulma all converge on the lookout, where Chi-Chi confirms what they all feared, that Frieza somehow managed to survive the Saiyans' final attack, and is now returning to Earth, this time with a roughly equal power at his side. Nappa sighs that this is probably Frieza's father, King Cold, before adding their presence must mean Vegeta was unsuccessful in his plans to destroy their empire, and so is probably dead as well. No one but him is particularly moved by this loss, and so the conversation turns to how they might stop Frieza and Cold. Krillin suggests that if they all go into their highest form of Kaioken and fire a combined blast, it may be enough to kill the tyrants, but Raditz disagrees, saying that 100 times Kaioken from Kakarot didn't kill Frieza, so even with all their training he doubts they can. Chi-Chi snaps at him to come up with a better plan then, and Raditz feels a chill go down his spine. He does have a better plan, but there's one problem with it. If he goes through with it, he'll die. With all his gains over the last 18 months, Raditz is confident that if he used Kaioken times 100, he'd be able to kill Frieza and Cold. Even times 50 would be enough to end those monsters in a heartbeat. But he saw what that power-up did to his brother's body, and with his first child on the way, he's not sure if he'd be able to make that sacrifice for Earth. Raditz's hands shake and he balls them up into fists, furious with himself. After all this time, he's still a selfish coward. Kakarot died for this world and left behind his family. Why can't he bring himself to do the same? It's the only way to save Bulma and the baby. He has to do this for them. But then Tien speaks up, proposing that he be the one to perform the sacrificial Kaioken, saying that after seeing Goku do it, he's been training himself so he can go up to times 20 on command, so perhaps that paired with a Neo Tri-Beam will be enough. However, if it is not, he is willing to lay down his life for the good of the planet just like his rival did. Everyone asks Tien if he's sure he wants to take such a risk, but the Triclops grunts that it's not a matter of want, it's a matter of need, and they need to kill Frieza and his father today, or it will mean the end for Earth. Finding some of his courage at last, Raditz vows that he will fight alongside Tien, with Nappa, Krillin and Chi-Chi promising to do the same. Chaozu says he will as well, but Tien implores his oldest friend to stay out of this, since if the worst comes to the worst, he will need to pass on the secrets of the Crane School. Tearfully, Chaozu agrees, and so the Dragon Team fall into silence, awaiting the arrival of Frieza. It doesn't take long for Frieza's ship to touch down, this time in a wasteland, and so the heroes depart at once to confront the tyrant and limit the destruction he can cause. However, even flying at supersonic speeds, they are not the first to arrive at the scene, and to their shock are greeted by the back of a humanoid figure, with familiar spiky black hair that hangs all the way to his knees. Though they cannot see his face, they can see the sword he draws from his back, and uses to dispatch Frieza's soldier with an impressive level of speed and efficiency. As the dismembered bodies spluttered into the dirt, the long-haired figure issues a challenge to Frieza himself, who is now some sort of grotesque cyborg. Frieza, being his usual condescending self, swaggers towards the swordsman, asking if he really thinks he can defeat the Emperor of the Galaxy as easily as he did some lowly minions. The figure replies that perhaps not as easily, but definitely just as quickly, before his hair turns gold and an aura of the same color bursts all around him. The Z-Fighters are almost blown off their feet by this sudden increase of power to someone who is already stronger than any of them, and so they very nearly miss what happens next, as the figure vanishes from view, only to reappear behind Frieza and run him through with his sword. As Frieza gasps in pain, the warrior takes one hand off the hilt of his weapon and places it onto the small of the alien's back, smirking to give his regards to those other mechanized freaks when he sees them in hell. He then fires a blast which vaporizes Frieza in an instant. Oddly enough, King Cold applauds this brutality, calling the young man most impressive indeed, and offers him a place at his side. The Golden Warrior bluntly declines, advancing on the king with his sword still drawn, and so Cold, with a look of slight worry on his face, asks what he wants instead. The Z-Fighters cannot see the long-haired fighter's face, they can hear the smirk in his voice as he answers, "For you to know it was a Saiyan who killed you." He then fires off a ball of pink ki which engulfs King Cold, the ship, and any remaining Frieza Force soldiers, turning them all into dust in a matter of seconds. For everyone else, an immense sense of relief floods them that this crisis could be so easily avoided, but for Raditz, all he is left with is a sense of puzzlement, since that final attack was unmistakably a Saturday crush. The unknown fighter's hair then reverts back to black, and without missing a beat, he spins round and calls for the defenders of Earth to come out now since the danger has passed. Not sure if they can trust him, but wise enough to know that as it stands they probably can't resist, the group float over, and as they do, they get a better look at the young man. He is tall and well built, with dark eyes and hair that on closer inspection bears an even more striking resemblance to Raditz than they had all thought, except without the pronounced widow's peak. When they get close, he smiles and sheathes his blade to show that he means no harm. However, the group is still not fully sure if they can trust him, and so wanting to redeem his previous cowardice, Raditz steps up and demands to know who this young man is. The stranger pauses if caught in a conundrum, and Raditz notes that for a moment his eyes dart to Bulma's belly, making the wary Saiyan even more uneasy as he worries that this boy is thinking of attacking Bulma and the baby as a way to catch them all off guard. But then the young man does something even more shocking. He throws his arms around Raditz, and in a low voice whispers, "My name is Trunks. I'm your son from the future. I've missed you, Dad."